وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. So we continue this morning our commentary on Kitab Riyadh al-Salihin للحافظ النووي رحمه الله تعالى. And we have reached the chapter of al-mujahada, the chapter of striving against oneself, exerting oneself, struggling against oneself. And we've reached the hadith عن أبي صفوان عبد الله بن بصر الأسلمي رضي الله عنه قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم خير الناس من طال عمره وحسن عمله رواه الترمذي وقال حديث حسن. So we look this morning, we reflect this morning on the hadith of Abdullah ibn Busr al-Aslami, who related that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wasallam, he said, the best of people is the one whose life is long, while his conduct is good. The one whose life is long, while his conduct is good. Now, one of the common themes in the chapter of al-mujahada, the chapter of striving against oneself, exerting oneself to do good, is that the Prophet incentivizes this mujahada, this striving against yourself. And he gives a lot of different examples. We've looked at some of the hadith, and this is another example of him incentivizing, telling us what we stand to gain if we do this, if we incorporate this into our practice of our religion, if we become the people who go the extra mile, who do a little bit more, do a lot more if they can. Here, he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, informs us that striving against ourselves and exerting ourselves to do more for Allah's sake and for the benefit of our own souls will make us from the very best of people. And this is a huge incentive, and it shows you that the Prophet ﷺ is in tune and in sync with what? With the mentality of what? Of human beings. Because human beings, generally speaking, every one of them likes to be what? Likes to be the best. That's the nature of man. He wants to be the best. And this is certainly true when it comes to worldly things. We, mankind in general, we all like to be considered the best in our professions. The best at what we do. Y'all see that? If they have, for example, a listing of the best gastroenterologists in the country, and let's say there are 8,000 gastroenterologists in America, nobody wants to be ranked number 8,000. Is that not so? Right? Nobody wants to be that. Somebody has a company where they clean homes. And you know, they have a rating. They give you different, for example, different star rating, right? Because people are looking you up and trying to see, hey, I want somebody to come clean my home. And they look at it. Nobody wants to have a 1-star rating, do they? You're not going to get much business, are you? All of us want to be what? The best in our profession, the best at what we do. Not only that, many people, most people, are preoccupied with being the best in terms of material possessions. They're constantly striving to out-earn others. They want to make more money than other people. They want to receive more accolades and acclaim than others, more awards than others. Employee of the month. I'm coming for you, Dave. Right? I'm coming for you. Dave's pictures. I'm coming for you, Dave. This is going to be me next month. They're constantly trying to have a bigger house, a fancier car, and so on and so forth. This is the nature of man, generally speaking, when it comes to what? When it comes to material things. Unfortunately, it's only a small minority of people who are committed to being the very best in spiritual matters. The best in practicing their religion and fulfilling their religious obligations, and I'm going to pause here. There's no question that that message, it includes what? As-salat. It includes what? As-siyam. It includes what? Growing a beard and doing the things that what? Outwardly appearing as a Muslim. It includes those things. But unfortunately, many of us, when we think about al-mujahada, we think about it in terms of what? Those things exclusively. The things that people can perceive with their senses to be what? To be being a good Muslim or striving in the way of Allah. Y'all see that? But it goes deeper than that. In fact, the real striving against oneself is doing those things that people might not necessarily always pick up on, and they're not easy to do, and they're not our druthers, like forgiving somebody. The best at what? At forgiving people who have wronged you. Not forgiving people that haven't done anything. What you forgiving them for? No, forgiving somebody that what? That wronged you. Getting into an exchange with somebody and you have an unpleasant experience with them and being able to move past it. You got people, they're the religious people. They're hufad al-Quran, they're people who memorize Quran. And they continue to have what? They continue to treat people poorly because why? Because me and that person, when we first met, we just didn't, it wasn't the best exchange, it wasn't the best experience, and they continue to hold a grudge against them. It's like, A'udhu billah. This behavior, ya ikhwan, this type of thing, you have to strive against what? Your own self, because it's in us to what? To come to our own defense. It's in us to have a certain level of what? Pride and self what? Self-respect. A certain level of dignity we want to maintain. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us what? To be people who surrender our hearts and make our hearts obedient to Him and make our hearts more concerned with what pleases Him than what pleases our own what? Our own selves. I get certain level of gratification by what? By stiff-arming this person, by putting distance between me, by being cold. Yeah, Juan, sometimes it happens. In a room like this, and a person will sit across from the person that they really are not fond of. And they'll scan, and when they come to that person, they'll do this. They don't want to lock eyes with that person because out of fear they might have to do what? Have to give him salams, have to greet him. Y'all see that? You could go around the room, salam alaikum, to get to that person and just what? Act like they didn't seem like they're invisible or something. As if Allah doesn't see that. I say it to say that, and mujahada means what? Striving against yourself in matters like this. This is the real mujahada. Submitting your heart to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and striving to earn Allah's reward and be the best in what? Not just salat and growing the biggest beard and having the shortest thobe, but what? The best in forgiving people and not making it about you. The Prophet ﷺ, as hard as it was, the man who not only killed his uncle, but exposed his uncle to being mutilated. Couldn't mutilate him if he wasn't dead, right? The man who did that ultimately came to the Prophet and said, what? I want to be a Muslim. You know how hard it must have been for the Prophet. As much as he loved his, it was his uncle. You know how hard it must have been for him to forgive him? But he forgave him. And Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, radiyallahu anhu, the man who said some of the worst things about his daughter during Qissat al-Ifk, during the great lie and slander against Aisha radiyallahu anha, was somebody not only that was from his family, but somebody who he financially supported. Person was utterly dependent upon Abu Bakr to put hand to mouth. Couldn't put nothing in his mouth except what? If Abu Bakr financed it. That man was saying bad things. Abu Bakr wanted to cut him off. I won't give you another red cent. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed verses in Surah An-Nur telling them, "Ala tuhibbuna an yaghfir Allahu lakum." You got to forgive that person if you want Allah to forgive you. And Abu Bakr said, what? We forgive. You got to see that. I say what to say is that I just want to make sure we understand that we're understanding each other when we talk about this mujahada. Mujahada means I'm going to what? I'm going to do Allah's work. I'm going to be the person Allah wants me to be. I'm going to be the best in deen, not just the outward things that people can experience with their senses, but the things that people don't necessarily see. I'm going to be the best at what? Forgiving people. The best at being pleasant to the people who are not pleasant to me. The best at joining ties with people who cut ties off with me. طيب. So we want to be the best in the spiritual matters, the practice of our religion. The best in fulfilling our religious obligations. Because we know that when everything is said and done, our material accomplishments and possessions will fade. And our spiritual accomplishments will remain. Dunya is fleeting while deen is forever. Dunya is fleeting while deen is forever. Which is why the Prophet ﷺ is encouraging us in this hadith to be the best in spiritual terms, and informing us how to achieve this بِمُجَاهَدَةِ أَنفُسِنَا, by striving against ourselves. He says, the best of you, or the best of people, is the one whose life is long while his deeds are good. Y'all see that? So he says, خَيْرُ النَّاسِ, the best of people. Meaning in whose estimation? In whose estimation? In Allah's estimation, in Allah's determination. And that is because when we live longer while obeying Allah, two things will happen. One, you continue to do what? Draw closer to Allah. And the closer we get to achieve, and the closer we draw to Allah, the closer we get to achieving the status of what? Awliya Allah. Allah's near and dear ones. One of the first hadith we took in Bab al-Mujahada was the hadith where the Prophet said, that Allah says, he says, وَلَا يَزَالُ عَبْدِي يَتَقَرَّبُ إِلَيَّ بِالنَّوَافِلِ حَتَّى أُحِبَّهُ. That my servant continues to draw closer to me by doing what? By doing the supererogatory, the voluntary deeds. Working, striving against himself to do more for my sake until what? Until I love him. Until he gets to the status of what? An awliya. And the other benefit is our status in the hereafter continues to what? Continues to be elevated. You go to what? Higher and higher ranks. That's what the Prophet, when he says the best of you, means what? The best of you in terms of what? Darajat fil akhirah. The best of you in terms of what you're ranking in the hereafter. People are going to be ranked. Some people are going to be what? The lowest level of paradise. Some people in the middle. Some people what? They'll be in the highest ranks. How do you get there? The Prophet is saying what? Long life, what? While doing good deeds. طيب. So he says, من طال عمره. The one whose life is long. Now I'm going to ask you honestly. Is the length of your life in your hands? Do you control that? Do you set a dial? 58 years. You know what? 56. That's a good number. No, you know what? Let me get a little. 69. Huh? Do we control that? No, we don't control that. But we do have absolute control over what? Over our actions. MashaAllah, ahsant. And that's why the Prophet said, he didn't just stop there. He didn't say, the best of you are those who live the longest. He said, the best of you are those who live the longest. وَحَسُنَ عَمَلُ. While doing good deeds. So here the Prophet ﷺ is teaching us a few things. Number one, to control what we can control. And leave what we can't control to the one who controls all things. Y'all see that? Can't control your life, but you can control what? The deeds you do while you're living. Number two, he's also teaching us that a long life in and of itself, or a long life riddled with acts of disobedience, is not a good thing. Or something someone should strive for, something we're just so concerned about living a long time. You know what I mean? And it's nothing wrong with a person taking their vitamins and minerals and supplements because they want to have good skin while they're alive. They want to be mobile while they're alive. Nobody wants to get to a point where you're so brittle you can't even bend over and tie your shoes. You exercise and you do things to take care of yourself and to give yourself a better quality of life. But to be like hyper focused on living a long time or living forever or trying to, cheat death, it's not the way we should be. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he criticized the Jews. Because they have this what? They have this covetousness, this greed for what? For life. He says in the Quran, he says, وَلَتَجِدَنَّهُمْ أَحْرَصَ النَّاسِ عَلَى حَيَاةٍ وَمِنْ الَّذِينَ أَشْرَكُوا يود أحدهم لو يعمر ألف سنة وما هو بمزحزحه من العذاب أن يعمر والله بصير بما يعملون. He says, you will find them, the Jews, the greediest of people for life and the most covetous of continuing their miserable existence, even more so than the idolaters. One of them would love to live for 1,000 years, but the grant of such a lifespan will not save them from the punishment, and Allah sees all that they do. He's blaming them for what? For being people who what? Just greedy for life. Give me more, give me more, give me more. Not greedy for drawing closer to Allah while they're alive. Just what? Give me what? Give me more life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He also says one of the reasons why people shouldn't be keen to live a long time if they're not going to obey Allah, because all they're doing is what? Giving themselves more rope to what? To hang themselves with. He says, وَلَا يَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ خَيْرٌ لِأَنفُسِهِمْ إِنَّمَا نُمْلِي لَهُمْ لِيَزْدَادُوا إِثْمًا وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ مُهِينٌ. Let not the disbelievers presume that our granting them respite, giving them long lives, is good for their souls. Oh, this is good for me. Look at all the stuff I'm doing. And Allah's giving me more life, giving me more kids, giving me more wealth. I got 2 mansions now. I used to have 1. Oh, this is good for me. This is good for me. It ain't good for you if you ain't obeying Allah, because what you're doing, you're giving yourself more rope to ultimately hang yourself with. You will hang. You will hang. It's just going to take longer. You see that? We only grant them respite so that they may increase their sins and receive severe consequences. For them is a humiliating torment, which is why the Prophet ﷺ said in the hadith, لا يتمنى أحدكم الموت من ضر أصابه فإن كان لابد فاعلا فليقول اللهم أحيني ما كانت الحياة خيرا لي وتوفني إذا كانت الوفاة خيرا لي. The Prophet used to pray, or he used to say, tell his ummah, look, don't be the type of person who something bad happens to you and you start praying for death. Don't be that person. That's one side of the equation. A person eager to die. At the same time, don't be eager to what? To live a long time, especially if you're not going to do anything productive, spiritually speaking, with that life. So he said, be one of 2 people. Be the person who makes the dua and says, oh Allah, give me life. Let me live. As long as living is what? Is good for me. And give me death. I'm ready for that. I'm ready for that. As long as what? Death is good for me. Oh Allah, if living to be 58, that last few years, because some people get what? They get right up to the door of paradise and about to turn the knob, and what happens? They go the other way. Y'all see that? Oh Allah, if living to be 58 means what? I'm going to turn away from Jannah. Then let me die at what? At 54. Y'all see that? Allahu Akbar. This is how we should be thinking. I'm here for a purpose. Dunya is not the end. It is a means. It is a corridor to get to where I'm trying to get to. So if living to be 54 is better than living to be 58 in terms of what? Getting there and getting what? A better place there? So be it. And last but not least, the Prophet is teaching us we shouldn't wish for a long life or pray for a long life for ourselves or for somebody else. There's a dua that people make a lot of times, especially in Arabic culture. They say, Atallahu baqa'ak. Atallahu baqa'uk. I'm sorry. Atallahu baqa'ak. May Allah give you what? Long life. And they stop there. The Prophet is saying what? That's not a good dua to make. The Prophet is saying, there's something missing there. Which is why the ulama, they say, if you're going to make that dua, you should qualify it and say, Atallahu baqa'ak ala ta'ati. May Allah give you long life upon His obedience, while being obedient to Him. And so I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this Jama Tayyib, for this group of awesome, beautiful people and these beautiful faces. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you all long life upon His obedience. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us from those who listen to the talk and follow the best of it. And as you guys know, we do the hospitality on Sundays. They got donuts, brothers. They trying to kill us, man. They knew what hadith we were going to bring. They got sambusa and they got donuts. So everybody please partake. Take something. If you can stay with us for a little bit, we'll do a little conversation, a little hospitality. That's great. If you got to go, take something with you as you go. Jazakumullah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.